Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a brand new mod spotlight video. I think I'm going to start doing these a bit more often where we don't just look at one mod, but we don't go full on into like a top 5 mod list. We're going to basically be taking 1 or 2 mods that have either recently come out over on Nexus Mods or the Steam Workshop, or have recently been updated with some pretty cool features. So if you like these type of videos and you want to see more of these so you can get a nice little mod list together for your next campaign, be sure to drop a like and a comment down below, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I upload Bannerlord, I upload Total War, and all that glorious stuff, so definitely a good place to be. So let's start this off with the awesome reinforcement system mod. This is a pretty beautiful mod, because so what this mod does, and it's really cool, it basically allows armies that aren't necessarily directly next to you or who don't get dragged into the battle when a battle is initiated on the campaign map to actually join the battle as it progressively goes on. So normally how the current system works is whenever you get into a battle, the campaign map freezes and that is it. There's no more reinforcements, no more armies coming to help out. Whatever's in the battle is just in the battle. But with the reinforcement mod, it will basically take in a ton of factors, which we'll get into in a second, and armies within a certain radius could then still arrive into the battlefield, even if they weren't in that initial conflict. And on top of that, they will also be delayed, so they won't just arrive with the rest of the forces. The battle might go on for 5-6 minutes, depending on how far away the army is, until they even arrive on the battlefield. So you can get some really cool, like Helm's Deep-esque moments where all hope is lost, but you look to the look to the east and you see Gandalf riding in with the men of Rohan ready to save the day and their king. Like, it's just a really cool concept. So now let's actually dive in so you actually know exactly how this mod does work. Are you going to be getting smacked from the other side of the map, or is it a little bit more sensible? Well, obviously it's a little bit more sensible. So there is a certain range around the battlefield. Generally it's going to be relatively close to the battle, but not enough to actually get dragged into it. So again, if you've got an army, you're in the north of Sturgia, and there's an army down in in the Northern Empire, they're not going to get dragged in. They still have to be relatively close to the battlefield. And again, depending on how far away they are, is going to impact the time in which it takes for the army to actually arrive on the battlefield and their troops to spawn in. So it will be a gradually reinforcing system. On top of that, there are also several factors which actually determine whether or not they even want to join, because the AI might actually just straight up decide that they don't want to be involved in this battle, even though they're also fighting the same enemy. So the first factor that gets taken into account is the relationship you have either with the clan or the character themselves. So building up them relations early on and actually reinforcing your own lords in whatever faction you're playing with is going to be really important. You get additional points, and this is basically like a point system, where here's how the mod has done it. Some things will give positive stuff, some things will give negative, and then obviously if the overall is enough, then they will join the battle. But yeah, so again, depending on whether or not the character likes you or dislikes you is gonna again determine that score of whether or not they want to join. Of course, stuff where like if they're the king and you're their vassal, they're more likely to go ahead and participate in that because you're their vassal and they want to support you and obviously further their kingdom. And that's gonna go the same with like any family members or any clans of your own accord. They'll be much more likely to actually join the battle. The next determining factor in this is actually the advantages and disadvantages of the battlefield. So if you're in a battle that is heavily stacked against you, that's going to give you some pretty negative modifiers to your overall score on people joining you. People aren't going to want to join a battle where their forces aren't going to make a difference and you're both just going to die. So again, generally they're going to be reinforcing you when the battle is much closer, and of course if they like you. Now again, if they love you 100, you can probably still get them to join some pretty advantageous battles where things are looking dire, but maybe with their soldiers you can turn that around. So again, not just like blindly charging in on a suicide mission like a charge of the light brigade or something. That's not going to work out. People aren't going to follow you into battle unless they really do like you. And then finally, the last two are going to be the faction traits and also the faction diplomacy. So again, depending on whether or not people are at war is going to play a big factor on whether or not they support you in battle, and of course the type of traits that certain lords actually have. For example, having the merciful trait will actually go ahead and score you positive relations in the overall, like whether or not they'll reinforce if the situation is disadvantageous to the player. So again, if they've got the merciful trait but it's looking quite bad for you, you know, I said earlier how that's going to really negatively impact people. If they have a merciful trait, they'll actually go ahead and look to join you because, you know, they want to go ahead and support you even though you are at a massive disadvantage, which is obviously just really cool. So that's going to pretty much wrap it up for the reinforcement mod. I think it's an amazing mod that you should definitely bring in. However, it's going to completely change how your campaign's going to run with this, because all of a sudden battles where you can kind of snake the AI, that's no longer possible because they will get reinforcements and you'll have to fight wave after wave of enemies, but also vice versa. It means you're going to be getting reinforcements as well, and we even have like a pretty cool like sound system, and I think also it's going to help really make the early game a bit more interesting because you can really stack up some large bandit parties with this as well, as they'll obviously reinforce their bandit allies. So again, that allows you to get more renowned and influence pretty early on, which is actually super awesome. Okay, so the next mod I want to talk about in this video, and it's kind of like a two-parter because they are two separate mods, but I feel like they go in conjunction with one another, not only because they're made by the same person, but also it just kind of adds to one another. And this is, of course, the cinematic combat mod and, of course, Artem's live animations. Artem, if you don't know, is a fellow YouTuber slash modder. He makes really awesome mods and also really awesome content, so I'll leave a link to his channel down below in the description, along with, of course, these mods. So what exactly do these mods do? Well, the cinematic combat mod, which has just recently been updated with the Mercy Kill update, very ominous. Basically, this mod allows you to go ahead and implement match combat for yourself actually in a battle. So this means when you're duking it out with enemy lords or enemy characters, you are gonna possibly run into locked animations. This is going to go ahead and force off and play out a really cool string of swords clashing, execution kills, heads being chopped off, a whole wealth of really cool things. And with the new update, he's gone ahead and implemented a ton of new executions into it, so there's going to be a lot more brutal deaths actually on the battlefield. On top of that, this mod also implements shield taunt, so you can actually go ahead and smash your shields and get all your army to do it yourself, again just bringing more life to the actual battlefield. There is also custom camera controls as well for the mapped the actual match combats. Again, he's on his Nexus page mentioned that it's kind of similar to the Skyrim execution kills, which actually, now I've read it, actually makes a ton of sense. And there's also a bleed out status, so if soldiers are really low HP, they're going to go ahead and actually have a chance of bleeding out on the battlefield. And then on top of that, there's also going to be a whole wealth of very cool animations to go ahead and represent that. And then finally, there are also mercy kills as well, so if someone does end up bleeding out on the battlefield, you can go over and obviously put them out of their misery, which is pretty cool. And again, there's a ton of very awesome animations for that. Now, you may think to yourself, well, Jackie, I don't really want to get locked into an animation every single time I fight someone, which is great because Artem's gone ahead and implemented a fully customizable menu in the MCM, so you basically can go into the options and affect exactly how far you want to actually go ahead and experience this. Do you want it to happen every single time you get into combat, or maybe very rarely? Again, these are all stuff you can customize, and it's very awesome that Artem has put this in. And then if we make our way over to the Artem lively animation, this is just a very kind of cool aesthetic mod because it'll go ahead and change a ton of the idle vanilla postures of soldiers on the battlefield. Not every single soldier is going to be, you know, hitting the same pose. They're going to be customizable. They're going to be kind of doing different things and kind of just immersing you on that battlefield, but not everybody's just this blank soldier. There's a whole wealth of different ones. Again, kind of think like Total War. Not every soldier in Rome 2 is doing the same pose. You know, some people are juggling around, some people are jumping, ready for battle, and it's just, again, adds a lot of flavor to that battlefield. There's also, again, to build on the injured mechanic of the previous one, the bleed out, again, soldiers in the Artem's lively animations, if they're low HP, will actually start to stagger. They're not going to be running around the battlefield as if they haven't just been sliced in half. You know, they're going to be kind of stumbling stumbling around that's going to impair their ability to move. And again, just add that extra bit of flavor. There's also a fleeing mechanic, so soldiers will drop their weapons and run away when they've routed, if they want to just get the hell out of there. And there's also new custom one-handed spear and shield animations as well, which is again really cool. And on top of that, all of this is customizable, so if you again don't want your soldiers to be staggering when they're wounded, you can adjust that and turn that off, which is just really nice. And that is going to do it for the video. These are, I guess, 3 mods. It was supposed to be 2, but I guess Artem's 2 mods are kind of combined into 1. But yeah, again, go check these out. These will dramatically change up your campaigns going forward. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, please don't forget to drop a like and a comment down below. And I'll see you guys in the next one.